Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a fascinating and honestly kind of terrifying threat intelligence report from CTM 360. This report pulls back the curtain on a massive, highly coordinated fraud ecosystem that researchers are calling GovTrap. Now, we aren't just talking about a couple of hackers in a basement here. We are looking at the literal global industrialization of government impersonation scams. It's an entire system built specifically to exploit that baseline trust we all have in our public institutions, and it does it using thousands of fraudulent digital platforms.
Over 11,000. Just let that sink in for a second. That staggering number represents the amount of malicious, completely fake government portals that are actively waiting to trap citizens worldwide right this very minute. This isn't some localized, targeted attack. It's a massive, industrialized machine casting an incredibly wide net, aiming to catch literally anyone interacting with public services online.
So here's our roadmap for breaking down the exact anatomy of this industrialized cyber heist. We'll look at 1. The illusion of authority, 2. Building the fake portals, 3. Delivering the bait, 4. The heist and exfiltration, and finally, 5. Fighting the industrial machine. Let's get into it.
Part 1. The illusion of authority. Scammers know that when the government speaks, we tend to listen, right? They weaponize that trust to fly right under our security radar. For years, we've all been trained to spot classic phishing. You know the drill: weird typos, bad grammar, wonky graphics. But GovTrap? It's a whole different beast. These aren't sloppy mistakes. This is a scalable, corporate-level machine cloning entire government environments perfectly. We're talking exact branding, flawless workflows that mimic the real sites step by step, perfectly localized language, and doing it all on an industrialized scale.
And to give you a sense of just how wide this net really is, this campaign is hitting targets across North America, Oceania, Europe, and Asia. They aren't just spoofing big federal agencies either. They go after regional services you use every day: tax portals, vehicle registrations, social benefits, and local fine payments. They meticulously tailor the messaging to local policies and deadlines, meaning nobody is exempt. We are all potential targets here.
Moving on to part 2, building the fake portals. So how exactly do they spin up over 11,000 of these sites so cheaply without getting shut down? Well, it comes down to internet economics. The attackers rely on incredibly low-cost infrastructure. They scoop up super cheap top-level domains, stuff like .me, .cc, .vip, and .icu. Because they cost basically nothing, they buy them in bulk. Then, they expertly craft the URL, injecting country names and agency keywords so the link looks entirely authentic at first glance. This creates a literal whack-a-mole situation. Because these domains are practically disposable, the operation is incredibly resilient. The system functions like a digital hydra. Authorities manage to take one fake portal down and bam, multiple new ones regenerate instantly to take its place. It's a high turnover rate that makes the whole campaign incredibly difficult to contain. All right, part 3, delivering the bait. Okay, the trap is set, but how do they actually get you to walk into it? The victim's journey usually happens over SMS or email, and it plays out in 4 rapid steps. You get a message. You click the link and get redirected to their perfect fake portal. You type in your sensitive data, and finally, the trap snaps shut with a fraudulent charge or data theft. It takes you from a normal day to a compromised identity in just minutes. The secret ingredient here is manufactured urgency. They design these messages to create a massive spike in anxiety. They'll tell you about unpaid fines, overdue toll charges, a looming tax deadline, or an expired license. Imagine your phone buzzing right now with a text saying your local parking fine is going to double if you don't pay in 10 minutes. That sheer panic? That is exactly what they weaponize to bypass your critical thinking. They want you acting fast, not thinking clearly. Part 4, the heist and exfiltration. This is the critical moment. You felt the urgency, you click the link, you're on the portal. What's actually happening behind the scenes? Well, the contrast is pretty grim. You think you're just paying off a quick $5 parking ticket, right? But the reality is the attacker is quietly capturing your full payment card data. You think you're verifying your identity for a tax refund, but they are harvesting your data for identity theft. This industrialized machine is silently stealing and selling your digital life. And listen, your stolen data doesn't just sit there. It's instantly shuttled out through automated channels. We're talking attacker-controlled servers, automated database scripts, and even real-time Telegram bots.
Sometimes they even build these pages on legitimate website building platforms, which lets all this malicious activity hide in plain sight, blending right into normal web traffic. That initial fake fine you paid, sadly, that's just the tip of the iceberg. The post-heist exploitation is brutal. They might hit you with immediate fraudulent charges, or wait and run repeated transactions later when you aren't looking. Your stolen funds vanish into completely untraceable money mule networks. And your personal data? It gets repackaged and resold on the underground market, becoming ammunition for the next wave of phishing attacks.
Finally, Part 5, Fighting the Industrial Machine. So how on earth do we stop a global fraud machine that constantly regenerates? The report makes one thing crystal clear. The old ways just aren't cutting it anymore. Playing whack-a-mole with individual URLs is a losing game. Defense has to be intelligence-driven now. Security teams have to move way beyond reactive takedowns and gain proactive visibility into the entire life cycle of this corporate machine, from their infrastructure to how they actually monetize the stolen data.
There's a quote from the CTM 360 report that really hits the nail on the head. GovTrap is not an isolated trend. It represents the growing industrialization of government-themed fraud. That really says it all, doesn't it? This isn't just a minor annoyance anymore. It's a highly sustainable, scalable fraud model. As our public services keep moving online, these attackers are going to keep exploiting that trust.
I want to leave you with something to chew on today. We've seen how flawlessly they clone these sites, how fast they regenerate, and how expertly they trigger that feeling of sheer panic. So are you truly prepared to spot the trap the next time your phone buzzes with an urgent alert? Because in an era of perfectly industrialized scams, a moment of pause, a refusal to let panic override your common sense, might literally be your best and only defense. Keep your guard up, and thanks for joining me on this explainer.